Imagine going to prison, like actually being locked up in a cell, just because you told the absolute verifiable truth about a celebrity.
Yeah, it sounds completely wild, right? Like something out of a dystopian novel.
It really does. But in South Korea right now, that is a very real possibility. And there is a massive $46 million sci-fi blockbuster that's in absolute jeopardy because of it.
Right, because it's caught in this huge, tangled web of alleged infidelity, horrifying stalking, and even dead cats.
Yeah, the dead cats part is where it really takes a dark turn. Welcome to your custom-tailored deep dive. The mission today is to untangle this massive scandal rocking the South Korean entertainment industry.
And it's one that really forces you to question, everything you think you know about victims, villains, and freedom of speech.
Exactly. So what kind of sources are we pulling from today to make sense of all this?
Well, it is an incredibly complex web. So to piece this together, we're drawing from breaking entertainment reports from OSIN, the Korea Herald, and the Mail Business newspaper.
Got it. Just the straight entertainment news side of things.
Right, but we're also looking at this through a harder analytical lens. We've got a legal breakdown from a practicing South Korean attorney, some international box office data, and a really eye-opening academic paper.
Oh, from the University of San Diego, right.
Yeah.
About South Korea's unique criminal defamation laws.
Exactly, because you really can't understand this story without understanding that specific law.
Right. So we have this central mystery. How does a fan's claim of a romantic affair morph into this high-stakes criminal stalking trial? And more importantly, how does this expose a legal framework where, proving you are right doesn't actually save you?
Yeah, where telling the truth is literally a crime.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because we need to start with the man at the center of the blast radius. We have to establish exactly who Hwang Jung-min is. You really can't understand the fallout without understanding his cultural weight.
That's the perfect starting point. Hwang Jung-min is not just a working actor over there. He is foundational to modern Korean cinema.
Right, he's like acting royalty.
Basically, yeah. He has a career spanning 3 decades, starting all the way back in the 1990s. When you look at the highest grossing, most critically acclaimed Korean films of the last 10 years, he is the anchor.
Movies like Ode to My Father, right? And Veteran.
Exactly. And the recent historical thriller, 12.1 Pul, The Day.
Yeah.
These films surpassed 10 million admissions each.
Wow.
Which, in a country the size of South Korea, makes them massive cultural events. Plus, he's been married since 2004, he has 2 kids, and he spent decades cultivating this pristine veteran actor image.
So he's respected, dependable, and, virtually untouchable. A total pillar of the industry.
Right up until this explosive accusation hits the internet and just shatters that image.
Right. Enter a woman in her 40s who is known in the media and court documents only as A. What exactly is she claiming happened between them?
Well, A comes forward with a narrative of a deeply intertwined relationship. She alleges that starting in 2023, she and Hwang maintained this ongoing secret relationship. According to her, they met in person 3 or 4 times, and she's very explicit in claiming that there was physical contact from their very first meeting.
So not just a platonic fan meeting?
Not at all. But she paints a picture of something more than just a fleeting romance, too. She claims they were professional collaborators.
Wait, really? Collaborators on what?
She says she did liquor branding work for him, and that they even operated a shared blog together where she wrote short stories. I mean, she is describing a real partnership.
But the pushback from Hwang's camp was just, instantaneous and totally scorched earth.
Oh, completely.
His agency, SEM Company, they didn't just deny a few details, they completely rejected her entire existence in his life.
Right. They stated on the record that he, quote, never even held her hand.
Yeah, they classified her claims as maliciously edited fabrications. And most crucially, they labeled her not as a jilted ex-lover, but as a dangerous, delusional stalker.
Someone who was actively threatening the actor's safety.
Which leaves the public staring at 2 completely incompatible realities. I mean, in one universe, you have this collaborative, intimate partnership with a shared blog.
And in the other, you have an unhinged criminal stalker fabricating a reality out of thin air.
I am really struggling to understand how 2 narratives can be a canyon apart like this. I mean, usually in these scandals, there's a kernel of truth that gets exaggerated, right?
Usually, yeah.
But here we have a woman describing writing short stories and an agency saying he never touched her hand. How do these stories actually line up when you look at the cold, hard evidence?
Well, this is where the digital footprint completely shatters the agency's simple narrative. The media recently exposed phone records that complicate, everything.
What did the records show?
Between May 2024 and May 2025, there were exactly 77 phone calls between Hwang and A.
Wait, hold on. 77 calls. If someone is a delusional stalker, that is a massive amount of contact. What's the context of these calls?
Here is the real paradox. Hwang initiated 62 of those 77 calls.
Are you kidding me? The alleged victim initiated the vast majority of the contacts.
Yes, he was the one calling her. And it wasn't just quick hang-ups either. In December 2024, there's a record of one call initiated by Hwang that lasted 50 minutes.
A 50-minute phone call with your stalker.
Exactly. And in May 2025 alone, during the height on all this tension, they spoke 15 times. Furthermore, audio recordings have surfaced where Hwang is allegedly heard saying, "I talk to you on the phone, we talk, and we even argue."
Wow. That implies a dynamic, like a two-way street of emotional engagement. That goes way beyond a celebrity desperately trying to brush off an obsessive fan.
It completely undercuts the agency's "he never held her hand" defense.
It really does. But we have to look at the other side of this ledger, too. Because while he might have been calling her, A's behavior sounds like something straight out of a horror movie.
It truly does. How bad did the harassment actually get, based on the records?
It crossed into deeply terrifying territory. The records show she sent 518 messages to Hwang and his family.
518.
Yeah, the sheer volume is overwhelming, but the content is worse. In a span of just 2 days, she sent 275 messages threatening suicide.
That is just psychological warfare.
It really is. And it didn't stop there. She sent files containing a will, photos of a cat's corpse, and pictures of bloodied toilet paper.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and the absolute breaking point, the moment this goes from a messy entanglement to a massive red line being crossed, seems to have been on February 10th, 2024.
What happened then?
When Hwang tried to block her and cut off contact, she bypassed him completely. She directly messaged his teenage son via Instagram DMs.
Bothering the kids is just, that escalation is what pulls this firmly into the realm of the criminal justice system.
Absolutely.
But to understand the legal gridlock we are in now, we have to look at the analysis provided by a practicing South Korean attorney, Lee Ji-hoon.
Right, what was his take on all this?
Well, Attorney Lee analyzed the specific text messages Hwang sent to A. These were messages where he wrote things like, "It's our first date, I want to hold you, and I'm so excited."
But if they never slept together, like Hwang's agency claims, does that even matter legally?
In South Korea, it matters immensely. Attorney Lee explains that under Korean civil law, a physical sexual relationship is not strictly required for conduct to constitute infidelity.
Really? Just the texts are enough?
Yes.
Yeah.
Family law there heavily protects the marital bond. Emotional affairs, crossing boundaries of intimacy, expressing a desire to hold someone, or calling a meetup a first date, all of that damages the marriage.
Wow.
Attorney Lee noted that based on those texts alone, Hwang's wife would have entirely sufficient grounds to sue A in civil court for what is known as alienation of affection.
So, mechanically speaking, the civil law recognizes the emotional destruction of the marriage as a quantifiable tort. Regardless of physical proof, he undeniably crossed a massive, legally recognized boundary.
Exactly. However, Lee makes a vital legal distinction that people often miss here. Hwang crossing a boundary does not legally excuse A's reaction.
Right. Her obsessive contact, the hundreds of messages, the graphic photos, and especially reaching out to his teenage son after being explicitly told to stop, that unequivocally constitutes criminal stalking under Korean law.
Which means you can absolutely be a victim of an emotional affair and a perpetrator of criminal stalking at the exact same time. It's not mutually exclusive.
But the paradox here is just baffling. Hwang claims he only called her dozens of times, including that 50-minute call to, quote, persuade and calm her down to stop the stalking.
Right. That was his official defense for the calls.
But if someone is sending you photos of dead animals and threatening your child, why on earth are you calling them 62 times? You don't try to reason with a stalker for an hour on the phone. You call the police. Is this psychological dissonance what led to the current legal deadlock?
It is exactly what has frozen the system. When a victim's own actions deeply contradict standard self-preservation behavior, it really muddies the waters for prosecutors and judges.
I can imagine.
They look at the timeline and see Hwang calling her during the exact periods he listed in his police complaint as incidents of severe stalking.
It's just a mess.
Yeah.
But while the legal system slowly tries to untangle this bizarre knot, there is a massive corporate machine experiencing extreme collateral damage in the background.
Oh, absolutely.
And this is where the timing of this scandal elevates it from a personal tragedy to an absolute corporate nightmare. Because Hwang Jung-min isn't just sitting at home. He's currently the lead in a movie called Hope.
Right. And Hope is not a small indie project. It is a $46 million epic sci-fi action thriller.
Which is huge. To put that into the proper context, $46 million is an astronomical budget for a South Korean film.
It's a massive financial gamble. The film is directed by Hong-jin, who is a highly respected auteur, known for incredibly tense, dark thrillers.
Yeah, his stuff is great. What's the movie actually about?
The plot itself is massive. It centers on a rural Korean village forced to fight off a mysterious creature after a wildfire cuts off all their communication with the outside world.
And to justify that massive budget, they brought in a huge international ensemble cast. You have Academy Award winner Alicia Vikander, Michael Fassbender, Hoi-yan from Squid Game, and Taylor Russell.
This is designed to be a global blockbuster. The financial stakes literally could not be higher.
For sure.
The film premiered at the Cannes Film Festival in May 2026, competing for the Palme d'Or, and it hit Korean theaters on July 15th. By early August, it had already grossed $33.3 million.
Wow. So we are talking about a massive financial engine with thousands of jobs tied to its success.
Exactly. So imagine you are the studio executives behind this massive financial engine, and suddenly your lead actor is splashed across the headlines in a stalking and infidelity scandal.
The panic must have been unreal. The film's distributors, plus M Entertainment and the production company, Forged Films, they didn't just sit quietly, though. They actually released formal statements accusing A of business obstruction.
Which is a serious charge.
It is. But how does a personal stalker obstruct an international film release?
By weaponizing the corporate email chains. They allege she wasn't just harassing Hwang privately. She was actively emailing their corporate partners, investors, and posting defamatory content online.
Specifically timed to disrupt the movie, right?
Yeah, specifically timed to disrupt the critical preparation period for the release and during key box office weekends. She was allegedly trying to tank the movie just to punish the actor.
But the collateral damage of this scandal didn't stop at the corporate balance sheets. Because when there is a vacuum of clear information, the internet decides to play detective.
And that never ends well.
Never. There is a truly tragic consequence to this public drama. Online vigilantism.
Which is a recurring, dangerous theme in modern entertainment scandals.
It's horrifying. Netizens decided they were going to unmask A themselves. They scoured social media, connected random dots, and ended up completely doxing an innocent female fan, mistaking her for the stalker.
Just a totally unrelated person.
Completely unrelated. They dragged this woman's identity, her face, her life into the mud. It got so bad that Hwang's agency actually had to issue a public statement, literally begging people to stop the harassment of a genuine fan who had absolutely nothing to do with any of this.
It really highlights the terrifying byproduct of internet culture. The mob demands a face to direct their anger toward, and the velocity of social media means they don't care to verify if they have the right target before they destroy a life.
You know, it's a chilling parallel to the actual plot of the movie Hope.
Oh, how so?
Well, in the film, the locals set out into the mountains to track down a monster. And because they are blinded by fear and isolation, they end up becoming the hunted themselves.
Wow.
The internet went hunting for a villain, and in their blind rage, they ended up terrorizing an innocent bystander.
That is a very apt comparison. The pursuit of justice turned into a monster itself, which brings us to how the actual formal justice system is handling the real villain or villains of this story.
Right. Where are we at legally?
Currently, the legal battle is a chaotic mess of appeals and countersuits. Hwang sued A, and the court initially issued a summary order fine of 3 million won, which is roughly $2,100 US.
Wait, $2,100? That seems like an incredibly light slap on the wrist for sending photos of animal corpses and harassing a teenager.
It is remarkably light, which is part of the reason A felt emboldened to appeal it. She requested a formal trial and then simultaneously turned around and sued Hwang in civil court for 200 million won in damages.
Claiming what?
Claiming his false accusations ruined her life. However, the prosecution has recognized the severity of the stalking. In recent hearings, they increased their demand significantly.
So what?
They're asking for a 10 million won fine and a mandatory psychological treatment order for A. They specifically cited the prolonged nature of the crime and the severity of her social media threats. The final sentencing for that is set for September 8th, 2026.
Okay, but this is where the deep dive takes a hard turn. Because this isn't just a story about celebrity gossip or a terrifying stalker anymore. It becomes a fundamental question about freedom of speech and the nature of truth.
Right.
Throughout this entire ordeal, Hwang's agency has been aggressively threatening lawsuits against anyone spreading these rumors, boldly claiming they will sue for defamation even if some of the text messages prove to be real.
And this brings us to the most crucial and frankly the most shocking mechanism in this entire story. Why are Korean agencies so incredibly aggressive with these lawsuits?
It does seem like their go-to move.
It is, and we have to look at the comprehensive academic paper from the University of San Diego to understand this. What's fascinating here is that in South Korea, defamation is not just a civil tort where you sue someone for monetary damages like you do in most Western countries.
Okay.
Defamation is a criminal offense.
Let me stop you right there, because I want to make sure I'm understanding the mechanics of this correctly. Are you saying that even if what someone says is 100% factually true, mathematically verifiable truth, verifiable truth, they can still go to prison for defamation in South Korea?
Yes, that is exactly how the mechanism works.
That's insane.
It is. Unlike in the United States, where the First Amendment established that truth is an absolute defense against defamation, South Korean law operates on a fundamentally different cultural philosophy.
What's the philosophy based on?
The law prioritizes a person's reputation, their social standing, and their privacy over the individual's freedom of speech. It is deeply rooted in protecting social harmony.
Wow.
Article 307 of their criminal code explicitly states that a person who defames another by publicly alleging facts, again, true facts, can be punished by up to 3 years in prison.
Just for telling the truth?
Yes. And if the facts are proven false, the punishment is even heavier.
I think of the legal system as a diagnostic tool.
Right.
If there's a problem in society, the law is the X-ray machine meant to show us the broken bone so we can fix it. But what you are describing is a broken X-ray machine. It takes the picture, but it is intentionally programmed to hide the fracture to protect the appearance of the skin. It makes everything look intact on the outside, leaving the truth hidden in the dark. You can literally go to jail for showing the fracture.
That analogy perfectly captures the tension between truth and reputation in this system. The burden of proof shifts entirely. There is a very narrow exception found in Article 310, which states you cannot be punished if the true statement was made strictly for the public interest.
But I'm guessing they don't apply that very often.
No. The courts interpret public interest incredibly narrowly.
How narrow are we talking?
Well, the court has to determine your internal motivation. If there is even a hint that you spoke out for personal vindication out of anger or for revenge, which is almost always the case in messy personal scandals, the public interest defense completely fails. You go to jail.
So apply that to this case. If A releases audio recordings or text messages that unequivocally prove Hwang Jung-min was having an emotional affair and those texts are 100% real, she could still face a criminal conviction because exposing an actor's private affair isn't deemed strictly in the public interest.
Precisely. The court would likely view her motivation as personal revenge, nullifying any public interest defense.
That is wild.
And if we connect the mechanics of this law to the bigger picture, you can immediately see how powerful figures weaponize it. The San Diego paper details how politicians, corporate CEOs, and massive entertainment agencies frequently use the threat of criminal defamation to silence critics, journalists, and whistleblowers.
It creates a massive society-wide chilling effect. I mean, if a journalist is terrified of going to prison just for reporting factual, verifiable truths that happen to make a powerful politician look bad, how does the press ever hold power to account?
The reality is they often struggle to, or they are forced to do it completely anonymously, which explains why South Korean internet culture relies so heavily on anonymous forums and blind items.
Ah, that makes so much sense.
But as we saw with the innocent fan being doxxed in this very scandal, when you force people into the shadows because the truth is criminalized, the accusations often become mixed with unhinged behavior, wild speculation, and innocent people get caught in the crossfire of internet witch hunts.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener, trying to make sense of this wild ride? Let's zoom out and look at the whole board. We started with what looked like a predictable, albeit messy, entanglement between a golden boy actor and an obsessed fan.
But as we dug into the timeline, we found deep psychological paradoxes.
Right. An alleged victim initiating 62 phone calls, including a 50-minute conversation with the very person threatening his family.
And we saw how those private paradoxes violently bled into the corporate world, threatening a $46 million international film franchise obstructing business, and triggering a vigilante internet mob that tragically destroyed the peace of an innocent woman.
And finally, it exposed the rigid, reputation-first mechanics of South Korea's legal system. A broken X-ray machine where the truth is not a shield, and proving you were factually correct can still land you in a jail cell.
It's a system designed to protect the image of the elite at the heavy expense of individual expression.
If you live in a Western country, you are probably used to retweeting a true rumor or calling out bad behavior without a second thought. But this case forces you to ask, what would your own online footprint look like if telling the truth was a literal crime?
Which leaves us with a critical new angle to consider as we wrap up. We've talked about how this law functions today, but think about where technology is heading tomorrow. We are entering an era of AI-generated content and hyper-realistic deepfakes, where proving what is a real text message and what is a malicious edit is becoming technologically impossible.
If a legal system already aggressively punishes the verifiable truth simply because it damages someone's reputation, how on earth will that system survive in a world where reality itself is synthetic?
Exactly.
If we can no longer agree on what the truth even is, does a law against telling the truth become the ultimate weapon for anyone who wants to rewrite history? It's a terrifying thought to leave you with. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Keep asking hard questions, keep looking past the headlines, and we will catch you next time.